Hello there guys, welcome back to Younes Talks Football, welcome back to a brand new video. I hope all of you are doing well today as we get into video number 1 out of 2, double upload day. Make sure you're going to be here later on for video number 2 as we wrap up the second half of the day. And in order for you to do that, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Much appreciated to be notified once I've uploaded. Don't forget to check out the socials on screen, Instagram, brand new one, the old one, and Twitter, as well as all the others are in the description. Much appreciated. Now, video number 1. Because we've already got quite a lot of blockbuster news, blockbuster exclusives and things to get through. And on top of that, you're going to be catching more content over on Shootout. So make sure you are checking the link in the description. Head over to Shootout. There is a video today in regards to Manchester United's downfall. And tomorrow will be our Premier League predictions for this coming weekend. So make sure you guys are going to be there for that. Enjoy. Let's get cracking. And we're starting off with the women's team. Yeah, not the men. Not the men. The men, you guys take a break for video number 1. We will come to you later. Video number 2, we'll probably have things to say about you. But video number 1, we've got news on the women's team. Emma Hayes and Chelsea's co-sporting director, Winstanley. What has he done? Well, he's come under fire. He's come under fire, Paul Winstanley, because of what's happened with Emma Hayes. Emma Hayes, the Chelsea women's manager, we know is leaving the football club, and that has been announced. But it seems like the one article that has come out explaining the situation has pinpointed the blame on Paul Winstanley. So we're going to dissect it and see what's going on. Let's get cracking. Here it is. Exclusive. Chelsea sporting director Paul Winstanley is facing questions from the owners following Emma Hayes' shock announcement. She is understood to have indicated a desire to stay at Chelsea for the rest of her career during initial talks. Now, I'm about to come as to why this is true, but let's keep going in terms of the report from the Daily Mail on what they've said in regards to Paul Winstanley and Emma Hayes. So here it is. Emma Hayes is understood to have indicated a desire to stay at the Chelsea for the rest of her career during initial talks with the club, but the negotiations were placed on hold due to Paul Winstanley focusing on other issues. We also have, as a consequence of this, Sam Kerr and Frank Kirby, as well as Anne-Catherine Berger and Maren Melde, are out of contract next summer. They may not sign new deals at Chelsea now Emma Hayes is leaving. This has gone into freefall. What this means for the women's team is exactly the same sort of impact that it had on the men's team. The men's team got dissected to bits. Completely. The new owners came in and they flipped everything. They got rid of everybody. They brought in a complete new set of people. Everyone in the first team changed. I mean, eventually we got rid of all the deadwood and everyone that needed to be sold got sold. And we brought in a complete bunch of new lads. And it looks like the same transformation is about to go down with the women's team. But this will be quite severe because with the men's team, we could say that maybe the men's team were due a rebuild. Maybe there were players in that team that were just not good enough. We had to get some out in order to get new ones in. With the women, we've got the best of the best already. When you're talking about players like Sam Kerr, no striker in the world like her. You're talking about Fran Kirby. You're talking about Berger. You're talking about these sort of players that we've come to know and we've come to admire and we've come to really pay more attention to the women's game and Chelsea women and what they've accomplished. Emma Hayes has been central to building this team with these players. They are winners. So if they leave, it's going to be a case of who comes in. And then the women's team are probably going to start from zero as well, just as much as the men teams have. So with regards to Emma Hayes being central to this, it's crushing if she's wanted to stay at the club and we've not done what we've had to do in order to keep her at the club because we've waited long enough for an opportunity from the United States national team to come along, which, like I said before, no one's really going to say no to. But Emma Hayes, I feel like, wouldn't say no except if Chelsea had a legit offer on the table. And I think she would happily stay. But we've got to take the whole accusation towards Paul Winstanley with a grain of salt, because we genuinely don't know the real details, 100% of what's really going on behind the scenes. However, I've managed to pluck out something from 2021, which is going to help us understand the situation today. So, let me show you. The Telegraph came out in 2021. Tom Gary of the Telegraph came out in 2021 when Emma Hayes signed her new Chelsea deal. Now, this is going to help us understand what's going on today. So let's get into it. Here's what Tom Gary had to say in July 2021. I'm told the reason Chelsea haven't revealed a specific end date for Emma Hayes' new deal is because there isn't one. She's staying essentially on a permanent, long-term basis. Neither party felt the need to set an X-year length because their commitment to each other is absolute. And that was quoting Tom Gary's exclusive revealed in May that Emma Hayes has signed a new Chelsea contract. So there's no end date? So this could go one or two ways. And just to clarify, this was when Roman was at the club. So she signed that deal when Roman Abramovich was still at the club, right? We had just won the Champions League in terms of the men's team, and the women's team had nearly done the quadruple. They won, I think, everything domestically, and they got to the final of the Champions League, which we done a watch-along for. Just as the men's team won the Champions League, we were waiting for the women to do the same thing just days later, and Barcelona Femini, the women's team of Barca destroyed us. So that was that year. She signed a new deal. And she signed a new deal with no end date. So what does this mean? Does this mean that Chelsea, under the new ownership, came in and tried to get a deal done with her? And we've taken too long? We've not negotiated it in time? Or has there been no talks and the United States have popped up with an opportunity and Chelsea have just sat back and not done anything about it? When you look at either one of those two options, it does point to Paul Winstanley. It does point to the sporting director. It does. So we have to ask the question, has he allowed this to happen? Has he not been on point, on the money? Has he been asleep? Has he not been paying attention? Because if that's the case, trust me, losing someone like Emma Hayes is significant. For the women's team, it's significant. Like I said yesterday, she is the equivalent of Jose for what she means to Chelsea in terms of the manager. She is the women's Jose. She's the greatest ever manager the club has had. And one of, if not the best women's manager in the world. And we're just going to let her disappear. So questions have to be asked. Questions have to be asked. And why I feel like the Paul Winstanley link is up in the air is because of his history. You know, we nearly didn't get Caicedo because of his poor negotiating. And it seems like the negotiating is a problem. In terms of plucking out talent and assisting the recruitment, it seems like he's good at that. But in terms of the actual negotiating, we had to call Igbali to get deals done over the last transfer window. So is this a factor? Is this a problem in terms of dealing even with contracts currently with the players and the managers that we have at the club? Perhaps, you know? So let's see what happens. Let me know your thoughts down below. But I don't want to throw all blame at Paul Winstanley right now because we are still yet to really understand the true detail of this story. There's only been the Daily Mail that have come out of this. No one else has. Till we get more info, then we will be able to understand the picture a little more. But we can only analyse with what we have at the moment. So that's the latest in terms of Emma Hayes, Paul Winstanley. Let me know down below your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, let's move to what Chelsea have decided to do and pay attention to, which is this. Chelsea have made contact with Moscado's camp to find out the potential conditions of a deal, and sources say he ticks all the boxes Blues Chiefs are looking for. Corinthians want to make him the most expensive departure in their history. Listen, if the most expensive departure means 5.5 million, then happy days, right? I don't think it does. So this is where I think it's going to get a little complicated, because if they're going to be asking for too much money, we have shopped way too much in South America now for South American clubs to look at us and go, yeah, just let the player go for peanuts. They're going to look at Chelsea and go, we can take money from them. So this player, 18 years old, plays for Corinthians, is rated highly. Once again, we're shopping in the young department. This is what Chelsea do. Is going to be interesting because apparently there are links with other top clubs for this player. So if we do get him, that's a good thing. But how much is he going to cost? And is the investment going to be worth it? Is the player that good? I can't tell you, to be honest. I'm not familiar. So if anyone is familiar, let us know in the comments. Much appreciated. Now, we move to other stories before we wrap up. And I have to mention this. John Obi Mikel went on TalkSport and spoke about what Roman Abramovich done for him when his dad got kidnapped. If you remember the whole story, when John Obi Mikel had his dad that was kidnapped and he was playing at the World Cup that was taking place in Russia in 2018. And that news was filtering through, but John Obi Mikel was with the national team, and it was like, what do you do in that situation, right? Well, John Obi Mikel told us what Roman said to him at the time. And I couldn't believe when I read this, but I thought it's only right that we actually show you. So let's get into it. Here it is. John Obi Mikel on TalkSport said, "My dad got kidnapped while I was playing at the World Cup 2018 in Russia. Chelsea were very supportive. I remember Roman Abramovich saying, 'Do you want me to send people over? Because I know if I send people over, I can get your dad out.'" That is unreal. That's crazy. You just deep it. That's mafia talk. That is full on mafia talk. And we gotta be honest here. It's clear as day that he has certain links. Now, John Obi Mikel continues. I was like, how are you going to do this? He said, don't worry about that. Just let me. If you want that option, I can do it. I can relate to Luis Diaz and what he's going through. There was a similar situation days ago with Luis Diaz, and I think it was his mum and dad, if I'm not mistaken, and I think one of them got let go. So, yeah, how that story's going, I'm not entirely sure, and I wish all the best, and I hope Luis Diaz is okay, and his family are okay. But John Obi Mikel coming out and just saying, yeah, Roman just said, if you want me to send people, not a problem. That's some proper Russian KGB type level madness. That is, man. But it just goes to show a football club owner who doesn't have to do that was happy to bring out those sort of links. Now, Roman's not an angel, right? He's not an angel. Fantastic owner, and that's all I care about in terms of his link with Chelsea Football Club, how good of an owner he was. He was the best, right? That doesn't mean he's the best thing since sliced bread. He is an absolute angel. You don't get to that sort of level by being a nice guy. Let's just call it that way, yeah? So clearly he knew people. And I believe what he says. I believe that if he had sent people, it would have been a long day for the kidnappers. It would have been a long day. So, unbelievable. The fact that he offered that to John Obi Mikel, just one of the players, you know, is absolutely... And this is, bearing in mind, this is after John Obi Mikel's time at Chelsea. This is 2018, right? So, the fact that Roman reached out and was happy to do that for him, loyalty. Absolute loyalty. So, that's a lesson to learn. Now, one more story, and then we get to Man United to wrap up. But before we do, here it is. Premier League clubs are set to vote on November 21st to introduce a temporary ban on incoming loan deals between clubs owned by the same owner. It needs 14 votes out of 20 to pass the motion. It could affect Newcastle's chances of signing Ruben Neves. Now, this is also going to affect Manchester City and their ability to loan from the City Group, and Chelsea and their ability to loan from Strasbourg, which I don't think we'll do. They loan our players, we don't loan theirs. But if we're looking to get more clubs under the umbrella and we buy players to Strasbourg, for example, with the idea that maybe he's good enough and we can maybe fill him by loaning him to Chelsea, that would be a problem. So 14 out of the 20 clubs need to vote in favour of this. I think it will go through because I don't feel like there's enough clubs in the Premier League that do this sort of thing that are going to benefit from it. And it's only going to give an advantage to the other teams if they vote against doing this. That way, the other teams that are able to do it stop. So I think it's going to pass, which means that Chelsea's plans of a multi-club model need to be reserved just to a simple multi-club model where Blue Co own various football clubs and that's it. There's no sharing, no craziness like that. We can loan to them, but they can't loan to us and we're going to have to deal with that. But Newcastle will be affected and Man City to a certain extent, even Man City will be okay. They'll be okay. But to a certain extent, they wouldn't be able to do what they did with Frank Lampard, where he went to New York and then they loaned him to City. That would be illegal under this new ban. So let me know your thoughts on that in terms of how do you see that going and do you think it's a good thing to bring in a ban? I can understand why the ban is being put forward. I can understand because clubs are feeling like they're getting done. So it is what it is. To wrap up, Manchester United news, and it seems like it could be big news. Here it is. Breaking. Sir Jim Ratcliffe plans to be in charge of the football side of Manchester United next week. Jim is aiming to be calling the shots by Monday. That's quite significant. And that's going to be, I think, absolutely necessary for Manchester United in order to get themselves up and running because on a footballing level, they are suffering right now. So if they can bring at least an element of change that's going to kickstart their season to an extent, maybe, it's better than nothing. Maybe it completely goes south. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe Jim Ratcliffe comes in and just makes it worse. Who knows? It's possible. Maybe the grass isn't always greener on the other side. But you never know. If he's going to be in place and calling the shots by Monday, then this weekend's going to be a very interesting weekend. And then we will see what happens into next week. And if Jim Ratcliffe does come in, then we can react and see what's going to happen. So let me know your thoughts down below. Much appreciated. And that wraps up video number 1 of 2. So make sure you're here later on for video number 2. And like I said, in order to be here for that, make sure you're hitting the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified once I've uploaded. Smash the like button if you have enjoyed this. And I will catch all of you later on for video number 2, as well as the video later on Shootout. Make sure you are there for that, link in the description. So I will see all of you later. Have a good one, people. In a bit. Take care and peace.